It always starts the same way. You're alone. The streets are wet. The hour's late. Too late. The world feels thinner somehow, like you're walking through the skin of a dream. Then you hear it. An engine, old and wheezing, rising from the fog. Headlights cut through the dark like pale eyes in a grave. A bus, one you don't remember seeing before, stops in front of you. Its sign flickers. Route 0. No destination. No driver you can see. The door opens. You don't know why, but your feet move. You board. The lights buzz overhead. The windows are too dark. And the farther it drives, the less you recognize the world outside. By the time you wonder where it's taking you, it's already too late. This is the midnight bus, and the road only leads one way. Down. The rain had a sound that night, not just a patter, but a constant low hiss that blanketed the city. Liam stood under the leaking roof of a broken-down bus shelter. His phone was dead. The last train home had long departed. The streets were empty, and the air had that soaked, bitter cold that felt like it was creeping under your skin. He checked the posted schedules again. The last bus on his route had passed almost an hour ago. But then he heard it. The sound of a bus engine. Distant, grinding, unmistakably real. It grew louder, emerging from the rain-soaked street like a phantom. A bus, its headlights barely cutting through the fog, coasted up to the curb with a screech of old brakes. The destination board above the windshield flickered with failing neon. It read only, Route 0, end of the line. Liam hesitated, but the doors hissed open. There was no driver visible through the front glass. No one else around. Desperate, soaked, and cold, he stepped aboard. The door shut behind him with a wet slap. Inside, the air was musty and oddly warm. The bus looked ancient, a model he hadn't seen since childhood. It smelled like mildew and burnt rubber. Dust floated through faint rays of light coming from dim overhead lamps. Some flickered irregularly, like candlelight trying to hold on in a storm. Only 2 other passengers sat inside. One in the very front row, hunched under a heavy coat, unmoving. The other, seated toward the back, was little more than a silhouette in the gloom. Liam nodded politely, but neither responded. No reaction, not even a glance. The bus jerked to life and pulled away from the curb. There was no announcement, no voice from the driver. No sound of shifting gears. Only the rumble beneath their feet and the wet hiss of tires on pavement. Liam moved to a seat midway down the aisle and stared out the window. But outside, something was wrong. At first, Liam thought the windows were just fogged. But as he rubbed one clean with his sleeve, the street outside looked unfamiliar. Not just in layout, in nature. Buildings were crooked, some tilted. Storefront signs displayed letters and scripts he didn't recognize. Street lamps flickered in sickly hues, pale green, deep red, violet. Trees leaned into the road, bare-limbed, as if watching the bus go by. The route turned corners that shouldn't exist, descended tunnels that hadn't been there before. Every now and then, Liam thought he recognized a landmark. A diner, a bridge, a church. But they were twisted, corrupted. Like old memories warped by time. He tried to stand and go speak to the driver, but something about the aisle stretched wrong. It looked short, but each step took too long. Like the bus itself was warping time. When he finally reached the driver's partition, he tapped the glass. "Hey, where are we going?" The figure behind the wheel didn't respond. He wore a uniform, faded and stained. But his head, it twitched. A slow, unnatural turn. Then he turned around. There was no face, only a swirling, smoky void. Liam stumbled backward. He returned to his seat, heart pounding. The passengers had moved. The one who had been near the back was now only 2 rows behind him, turned ever so slightly, as though watching him with eyes he couldn't see. The figure in the front now had one hand exposed from under the coat. It was gray, mottled, and swollen, like a corpse pulled from a river. Liam pressed himself into his seat. The lights flickered. When they came back, a third passenger was now aboard, seated across from him. Liam hadn't seen anyone board, hadn't heard the doors open. He couldn't breathe. Outside the window, the city had vanished. There were no more buildings, just blackness. A road floating through a void, bordered by fog. The bus moved faster. Desperate, Liam tried to open the emergency exit. The handle wouldn't budge. He screamed, but it was swallowed by the heavy silence. No sound escaped the bus. He looked into the windows. His own reflection stared back, but it was wrong. His reflection didn't mimic his panic. It didn't move like he did. It was smiling. Behind the reflection, shadowy faces pressed against the glass, as though trapped inside it. Their mouths opened in silent screams. Liam stumbled back to the aisle and realized he couldn't remember where he had boarded. What stop? What city? The passengers were all watching him now. Their faces were clearer, bloated, pale, some without eyes, some without mouths. One grinned with teeth far too long, as if it were pretending to be human. The bus began to slow. The fog outside parted slightly, revealing a vast open field. A junkyard of buses, hundreds of them, all old and ruined, some rusted down to skeletons, all positioned like tombstones. The bus doors creaked open. The passengers stood and filed off, one by one, vanishing into the fog among the ruins. Liam tried to run the other way, toward the back of the bus, but the back wasn't there anymore. Only a void. A voice, cold and echoing, not from a mouth but from within his skull, said, "End of the line." The lights went out. Liam woke up lying in a puddle outside a bus station. It was morning. His clothes were dry. His phone was fully charged and showed no missed calls, no record of a Route 0. But something followed him. Now, every night at midnight, he hears the distant hiss of brakes, sees the outline of a bus in the fog, and in his mirror his reflection still smiles when he doesn't. He never took the midnight bus again, but it took something from him. And someday, it will come back to finish the ride. They say the midnight bus doesn't have a route. It has a purpose. It shows up when the night feels too still, when your life is between turns, when something's watching and waiting. And once you ride, you don't always come back the same. Some passengers return with empty eyes. Some never return at all. And some keep hearing the brakes screeching outside their window at midnight. So the next time you see a bus arrive with no number, no driver, and the door opens without a sound, ask yourself this: were you waiting for a ride, or was something waiting for you? Just remember, if you ever find yourself alone after midnight, soaked in rain, desperate to get home, and a bus with no route number pulls up, doors opening with a hiss, don't get on. No matter how cold, how empty the streets feel, how dead your phone is, stay behind. Because that's not a ride home. It's a one-way ticket to a place that shouldn't exist. And once you board, you don't get off. Not really.